Hey everyone, Joe here, and today's What's Kraken. It's a weird one for me because usually I interview people across the galaxy, and today with Rob Howell, I can just touch your house if I want to, Robert. I think so. Yeah? Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, for those that don't know, and you should, Robert is someone who is a, let's say, experienced writer of both short and long fiction, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So how did you get into writing?
Oh, it's been in me since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember when I was like 5, 6 years old, I used to tell my parents stories and they used to always laugh about them. So
Really?
I started having to write them down.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely. So you started to have the stories in your head and you
Yep.
started talking them out and then transitioned that way, huh?
Yep. I remember too, I was about 12 years old with a friend, we started writing a novel together. Unfortunately, we moved and the novel got half finished and I never got the other half.
Oh, wow. Do you ever think like one day you're going to see like the other half appear in your mailbox and go, oh my gosh, the other half of my novel?
I actually tried to reach the guy over the internet a few times, but
Really?
I could never find him.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Facebook brings you everything but what you want, really. It's like a monkey's paw, you know?
Yep.
The internet's monkey paws. So when you first started writing, what genre was it? I'm just curious.
I started writing sci-fi, science fiction.
Got it.
I actually submitted my first story when I was 17
Right?
to, I think it was Galaxy Magazine. No,
Oh, wow.
Fantasy and Science Fiction Magazine, which no longer exists. I still have a copy of that rejection letter to this day.
Do you really?
Yep, and that's almost 50 years ago.
What kept you going? Why'd you keep the rejection letter? Curious.
I once saw a story a long time ago about this, and I don't even remember who the writer was, but he was telling about that. And he said he always keeps his rejections letters to remind him that the next step will be better.
That's interesting. That is interesting. And as a writer, how did you take that first rejection in? Because you get the letter back in the day. You actually got like a letter, right?
Yeah, because that back in the day, you had to send it in handwritten copies
Yeah.
and stuff like that. There's no computers, and I had
Yeah.
terrible handwriting. So I was wondering at the time if that had reflection of my handwriting, not the story.
Oh my gosh. You never, and that's the thing, you never know. This, our, this current generation, ourselves included now, we don't have to go through the send it through the snail mail. Print this out and then send me a manuscript. You might get it back. Remember, we had to put like stamps, self-addressed stamped envelopes if we want to reply.
Mm.
Yeah, if you want your manuscript back, like, well, that's a big chunk right there.
Well, that was even into the 2000s. My first novel, which was published in 2007, I had to send the manuscript by mail to Saskatchewan. That's where
Really?
the publisher was.
Oh my gosh. What was your first novel called?
It was called Third Time's the Charm. It was a young adult urban fantasy.
So you spread out from sci-fi to young adult, we'll say YA urban, right?
Yeah,
What was the transition there? What was that like?
it was more the story didn't start as supposed to be a fantasy. I had this idea in my head to write a story about a young girl who was in an orphanage and who was adopted by a rich family.
Oh, yeah.
But it seemed like the characters took over themselves, and she ended up in a rich estate in Toronto, or just outside Toronto in the Niagara Peninsula, and met her two cousins who were also orphans. And when they get there, they find out that not only they're part of an old rich family, they are also a part of a community of witches.
Oh, wow. That's
And
kind of cool.
that's basically the story took off from there.
That's amazing. It's a way to do the character-driven story, right? You have the idea for a plot, and you put them through the paces, and the characters are like, "No, we're gonna go this way for a while."
Yep. It took me in a tangent I wasn't expecting at all. And that was before I'd ever read my first Harry Potter book.
I was saying it sounds like the old Harry Potter. If you see the movies, you might blink and miss it, but in the books, Harry's very wealthy in the wizarding world. He's like beyond rich.
Yeah, well, he only got his knew about his richness when he became 12 years old and was accepted into
Yeah,
Hogwarts.
Hogwarts. Yeah, but before that, he was always treated as poor. And in the book, I mean, the movies, he's still kind of treated as poor-ish. You know, he's not as affluent as the books were. So when you're making these transitions and you see this, Does that affect your word count? I'm guessing YA has got a lot different word count than sci-fi, right? Or fantasy even.
Yeah, well, the young adult was really a lot of it came because at the time I had 4 kids.
Oh,
So I was not only writing like that novel, I used to write short stories for them. So every holiday they got a short story where they were the heroes.
that's nice.
I still have a copy of most of those on my P drive here.
Did you ever think about putting those out?
Not particularly, but lately my publisher I spoke with, they're doing a Christmas magazine, and she's asking me if I wanted to contribute something because it's supposed to be for cooking and stuff like that. I said, well, I have these stories I wrote for my kids, and she said, oh, I love your writing. Please send me one. So I'm gonna think of which one I'm gonna send them.
Oh, that's very cool. It's a very writing can be a very small world. You meet connections, and you don't know where one connection will take you next time, right? You have no
Yep.
idea. So when you're doing a story, any story, not exactly for the ones for your kids, do you write with the intent of this is going to be published?
The ones for my kids, no, but everything else, yes. I eventually hope to get published,
Right.
and that's why when I do my writing, I also like to research everything.
Okay.
So, and to me, the research is a very important part of my writing. So, for example, when I wrote Blood Mansion, I researched every aspect of the book. So, in the book itself, it
Right.
starts off with these two teams. One's from a paranormal television station. You know, they do a show about ghosts and whatnot, ghost hunters type of thing.
Right.
And the other team is supposed to be a real investigative unit, a legitimate one. So during that time, I actually reached out to legitimate paranormal investigators, and I connected with one in Los Angeles,
Oh, cool.
and he actually gave me all the tips that are actually in the book on how they do their investigations.
That's amazing.
And I actually had the pleasure of meeting him last month.
Oh yeah, very good. Do you talk about the book? Like, hey, this is all based upon
Well, actually, I told him all about it ahead of time, and when it came out, he went and got a copy himself,
awesome,
and he
amazing.
actually wrote a nice review about it.
And that's again, we don't know where we're going to go with our next connection. And if you really want to, and I'll have to give them a plug right now, SIPA is going to be they're the paranormal investigations out of Ottawa, and they had the same thing. The scientific, let's see what this really is, science. This is the scientific investigation versus like the oh my gosh, it must be a ghost because it goes like this. Like no, no, that's just TV. That's just trying
But
to
that's
sell.
exactly how he does his investigations. But I liked about when in his review he wrote it. He wrote it while reading this book. I realized that if these things happened to me in real life, like they happened in his book, I'd be a believer.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And it takes one step away. So your books are grounded in research, which is important. I believe research is important, and then you have your imagination part of it, right? Did you
Yeah.
ever lean on the side more of imagination? Sometimes even the research says something else. You're like, no, it's still fiction.
Well, a lot of it is still fiction. Like the whole story is obviously fiction.
Right.
But even like the characters, the ghosts in the book, I based on real people that existed.
Oh yeah.
So all of the serial killer ghosts that are in the book, if you actually were to look up their names, you'd find out that what I said about them actually it did happen.
And that's an
So
interesting way
it
of
adds a little bit
learning.
of reality to it. So
Yeah.
people they think, could this really have happened? You know, give that a little bit of reality into the fiction.
Yeah, I think that's a good hook. It really is. And it makes people learn while they're reading. Which is an amazing skill to have. Like, it is really if you can write a book that makes people learn, even though they're
Yeah,
not cognizant maybe of what they're learning, especially for anything that can be historical like the serial killer, right? Like that subset.
yeah.
Have
Like for
you
example,
yeah,
the Blood Castle that's coming out. There, I combine a lot of the paranormal with actually science, and all of the science that's in the book, I actually researched to look up, see what was plausible and what's not. So
right.
the things that weren't really plausible, the guy that's doing the analysis and everything says, I've never heard of this. It can't be possible. But then the other stuff, they realize that, hey, this is real life.
Yeah, that's very cool. When is Blood Castle coming out?
It came out September 23rd. It's
What?
now available.
23. 23, that's right. So September 23, and when you're doing a book launch, especially nowadays, back in the day, I'm guessing you would go to a different Barnes& and Noble, or what would Canadian be? Chapters Indigo,
Yeah.
Reno Bra, I can't pronounce that as an American. Reno Brain. How do you say that one?
Reno Bro.
Reno. I always say Reno Bra, and people are like, what? My accent comes on really thick, and they think I'm talking about laundry. Okay, no, got it. So when you're doing these, do you do like a tour now, or do you do like the call them the blog tours instead?
Most of it so far has been either blog tours or online.
Right,
I did get a chance at the beginning of this month. My publisher invited me to an event for the Emmys where they do a gifting suite. They invite, it's mostly the B actors or some of the background producers, writers,
right.
and they come to this gifting suite. They do a red carpet event. So I was actually interviewed on the red carpet about my book too.
Oh, very cool.
And then I speak to all these people, and some of them I've even kept in contact since then.
It's
So
amazing.
even they're trying to promote my book for me too.
No, it goes to show you if you are a good person and you can be personal, people will take that into consideration and connect with it. People want to do good things for other people. They do. I think
Yeah.
inherently they want to. It's a lot of times that we get in our own way. So how do you not get in your own way? Because sometimes that
Well,
happens, right?
my first problem is I'm quite a bit of an introvert. So getting myself out there for me was already a challenge.
Right.
And part of the job I had to do while I was there, I had to do interviews like I'm doing with you, except I was the interviewer. And a couple of them I really messed up at the beginning. And then people laughed and said, please leave it. I want to see that blooper later.
No, exactly. Everyone gets so polished in these interviews. It's sometimes it's okay to make mistakes.
Yep.
It's the human part of us.
Yeah.
I think I can't wait to see everything coming out. So when you have this great event and you're riding high on this energy, like for those of you who've never released a book, it's a bit weird. At one time, at least for myself, as an author, I have the most fragile ego because I'm like, am I good enough? Is this going to hit? Is this going to miss? And then the most biggest ego because you want everyone on the planet to read it. So these two egos are kind of like fighting each other. How do you ride that high of a book release and then trying to come back down to write your next book?
I'm fortunate. I'm usually a pretty level person.
Good.
So I try not to let the highs get too high.
Right.
I keep myself relatively balanced, but sometimes the lows are tougher. Like when I saw the first sales for Blood Mansion that came out, and I said, with all the work I just did and whatnot, I only sold a few dozen copies. It was like, that was a low.
Right.
That was harder to come up from than the high of coming down.
I think it can be disheartening sometimes to see sales or to see who I'm not sure who's gonna watch this one, but I did a research on cozy, just cozy mysteries. So like the cats were solving mysteries, but the cats were solving drug deals. It was bizarre. And this series had like 300 books in the series and like 5 bazillion stars on Amazon. I'm like, how? How? And it was like very the guy basically printed it out of his basement. And then somehow it just took off in the 90s. Like huge. And then, you write Blood Castle or Blood Mansion, and you're like 12, 2 dozen, 24, the first day or whatever it's gonna be. Like, damn, how did that happen? So how do you get beyond that?
You just have to work your way through it. For me, I just go back to writing. I do. I find something else to write. I write another book, whatever I get into.
Did you ever try a series that you're like, okay, this is a series, and the first one just nopes? The first one's like, damn it, I'm just not getting this one. Do you keep with it then?
Well, the first book I ever published was The Third Time's a Charm. After 5 years with the publisher and not a single penny of royalty was sent to me, I took back the rights. Since then, I've written two more books in the series, and now
Right.
there's three books in the series I published on Amazon, and I plan on writing more because it turned out it's more of a supernatural detectives series, kind of
Yeah.
like a cross between Hardy Boys and Harry Potter.
Nice.
And
Very
my
cool.
three young witches use their ability to solve supernatural mysteries.
Brilliant. That sounds brilliant. And then you said you had it out for a while with an indie publisher, I'm guessing, and it didn't sell. And then did you write them for your rights back saying,
Yeah,
hey, listen, it's
I
been a
got
while?
I wrote the rights back and I got it in writing so I could never have a problem later.
Very, very cool. Some people don't know. you can either sell your rights to a publisher, meaning you never get them back, or you lease them for a certain amount of time or certain conditions are met for a while, and they could, or the contract itself is only good for 2 years, 3 years, whatever it's going to be. And then some publishers just say no. And it's kind of like you hear the horror stories and the musicians, like I sold my first song catalog, I got $2 for it, and they can't get them back. Have you ever worked with a publisher that you just could not get your stuff or could not get the point across or just didn't turn out well for you?
I've avoided those because I read the contracts first.
There you go.
I received one
Important.
contract for, like, I have a book I'm going to put out myself probably in November. This would be an adult urban fantasy called The Devil of a Time.
Okay.
And I had a couple of offers from publishers, and one of them I read through the contract. And once I saw at the end that basically they take everything over and they'll pay me if they want, I just basically ripped up the contract.
Yeah. And that's more common than people think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really.
And then a lot of them, you get what they call the hybrids, where, oh, you've got to pay for the cover, you've got to pay for the editing, you pay for everything, and then you'll start to see royalties if the book sells. But you still have to do as much marketing as they're going to do for you.
And that's the weird thing about some of the hybrids. Like I know some people who use a book service where they will pay for the cover because they want the cover, like, especially if you put it yourself. Basically, you're putting it out yourself. So you're paying for the illustrator, you're paying for the typesetter. I'm cool with that. It's the ones where you just paid for everything, and then if they want to give you a royalty, I'm like, oh, no, I just paid for everything. I should get everything. If I
Yeah.
pay for everything, I should get every. There's no royalty. It should be all of it.
Yeah.
You know.
If you see a contract that's like that, if they're paying for everything, they better be paying you royalties. And if you're paying for everything and they're not going to pay you royalties, or it's ambiguous, you might as well just self-publish yourself through Amazon. It's fast, it's easy, and it's inexpensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's stuff you can just go to like Readsy and get like an editor, or Book Whisperer, and get like covers and editing done. Longer the days are gone where I guess there are some still abusive publishers out there. I've seen some really bad contracts. Like we're getting rights for first print English rights. Duh, sure, I get that. Translations. Do you guys translate? No. Then why are you getting my translation rights? Audio. Do you have audiobooks? No. Then why are you getting my audiobook? Why am I getting all future discovered technologies not yet on this planet throughout all time? I'm like, no. Like, why? Why would you even ask for any of this stuff? You get locked in then. So you have to really read those publishing contracts hard. And when you first got your first book published, or your first publishing contract, did you read it through, or were you just going, "Yep, where's I sign?"
Actually, I went one step further. I had an acquaintance I knew who was a lawyer, and I had him go over it for me.
Yeah, smart move. Very
And
smart
he's the
move.
one that said it's a standard publishing contract. You're not going to get anything better anywhere. So that's when I went and signed it.
Yeah, Standards probably said limited run, whatever it's going to be if it sells this much, if it's ebook versus hard or paperback,
Yeah.
whatever it's going to be, and
Which is
uh,
why I was able to get the rights back, because there was a clause in there that there was no sales royalties in a certain period of time. I had the right to ask for the rights back.
revert absolutely, and that's the only way to do it. You never, unless you're a ghostwriter, then you kind of sell away your life because it's not your story at this point. But you should always own your own stuff. I know someone who against everyone's advice, went to a vanity publisher who published a book, no input on the cover, did a completely horrendous, in my opinion, typesetting job. The editing was trash, in my opinion, again. And she had to pay them like 10 grand, 10 grand Canadian. And she had to sign and write all of her rights to her life story. So she cannot make another thing that's based on her life because she signed the contract. I mean, it won't stand up in court because the contract's trash too, but
Yeah.
they're still out there. It's amazing. 2025, you're right. Pay an editor, pay someone to make your cover, go to Amazon, done.
I'd say, well, I mean, I found a nice on Instagram. I found a nice artist that did my cover for a Devil of a Time coming out.
There you
It
go.
cost me like $600.
Brilliant. That's
And she
actually
did an
pretty
amazing
decent.
job. I told her what I wanted. She put it exactly the way I wanted it.
Yeah. There's so many artists, like, on Insta. I used to go to DeviantArt and just kinda, like, surf through there, or Insta's pretty big too on that, honestly. Anything that's gonna be image-based, you're right. Ask them. Give them an email. Worst thing to do is say no, or they give you a price that's priced out, and you just, like, you go on to the next one, right?
Yeah.
So, when you're doing this, God, what was the year you first did a book? What was the first book year-wise?
2007. That was third time's a charm.
Okay. I think I did mine in 19 I'm dating myself now. Like 1999 or something like that. So we both been in the game for a while.
Yeah.
Over 20 plus years, right? We've seen things change a lot. Were you allergic to ebooks? Like they're gonna be death of print. You can't do ebooks. It's
Absolutely no. I thrive on ebooks because I read an average of book a week, and
yeah,
there's no way I could keep that many books on my shelf.
exactly it. I can take my entire library with me right now on a thing I can throw as like a frisbee versus all the books on my shelf that are just going to, if you move, oh my gosh, it's a pain in the butt. No, absolutely. I love it. Did you ever see things where you thought the technology or thought that you could do something, but maybe the technology for printing wasn't there yet, or maybe the technology for ebook formatting or something that was technology based that held you back?
I never really came across that because as the things evolved, it was actually my kids that encouraged me to get into the new things as they
Cool.
evolved.
Very
So
cool.
is when I took back the rights to third time's a charm,
Yeah.
it was my daughter who told me, look, we're still trying to find another publisher. Why don't you just self publish on Amazon? And she,
Yeah.
she she told me how to go about it, and that's what I went and did.
Yeah, they already have it edited and covered. You might wanna do a different cover depending on the edition, depending on Amazon's,
Yeah.
gets cranky sometimes. Why not? Absolutely. So, when you're doing Blood Castle,
Mhm.
walk me through it. Do you get the idea just walking around, or does it kick around your
Well,
head for a
I'll
while?
start with Blood Mansion first
Okay.
because that was the first book in the series, and that I got into that because of a real life event. In my regular job, I used to do property management, and the properties that I used to have to go over were properties that our company had repossessed. They were mostly empty, and there's one property I went to, and I had to go there every week. It was like an hour and a half drive away, and every time I went there, it gave me the creeps. I don't know why. There's nothing special about it, but it gave me the
Right.
creeps. So I was in the office telling some of the people in the office about it one day, and one of the girls there who knows I write said, "Well, why don't you write a book about it?" And all of a sudden, the ideas came, and I started putting notes down, and I started writing things, and then I said, you know what, I need to get some information. So I started watching that show Ghost Hunters at night to see what they use. And I actually looked up online. They sell their equipment online, their equipment. And of course, I used their equipment, but I modified it to make it work.
Very cool.
And Blood Mansion only took me 6 weeks to write. It just
Really?
it just flowed right through.
That's an amazing pace. I feel like a big slacker now.
So that led into how Blood Castle came was the first publisher that actually told me they wanted to write my book
Right.
told me they are interested in my book, but only if I change the title. Because the original title of the book was The House That Peter Built. Because the main character, the ghost, was Peter Vanderbilt.
Right.
So he told me, he said, look, he said, yeah, it sounds nice, except if you're writing a horror book and your name is Stephen King, that title will work fine. But nobody knows you as a horror writer, so
Right.
they're going to think it's a drama or a comedy or romance.
Right.
So I said, okay, let me come up with a new name. I agree, I'll change the name. And driving around, and one day we're just driving with the girlfriend, we're just driving along the lake shore, and his thoughts are through my mind. All of a sudden, why not Blood Mansion? So I raced back to the house. I looked online, and there was no book titled Blood Mansion. So I
Very good.
immediately sent that to the publisher, and in 2 minutes he said, "Okay, I've got the ISBN for it already." He loved it so much,
That's
and that was
amazing.
when I came up with the idea for a sequel.
And that's a proper way of doing it. And plus, because you have Blood Mansion, Blood Castle being the sequel,
Yeah,
we know it's related, just
yeah.
title wise.
And Blood Castle was another story. I had the idea for the title Blood Castle right away, but they said I'm going to write a story. But I was trying to look up castles. I looked up castles in Scotland. I was looking all around,
Spot
and
on.
nothing flowed. So, anyways, my girlfriend and I went to Niagara Falls for a week vacation. And my habit in the morning is I'll get up, I have my coffee, and I read the news, usually local news. And in the news was a story about at a conservatory called Ball's Conservatory. They had opened up something called a wind phone. So I read up what a wind phone was, and that was the inspiration for Blood Castle.
Very cool. Again, by keeping your mind open, you never know when the story's inspiration going to hit. Like Jack Vernon used to say, he would get inspiration just by listening to the grocery store. You never know when it's going to hit, and it's something that the light comes on, and it's time to write.
Yep.
So that is a very cool lineage. And when you're putting one out after another, how many in this series total that
I
you're
don't know
going to
what it's
plan?
going to be yet. There's no decision, but I'm trying to get out currently one out just for each Halloween if possible. For example, last year was the re-release because the original publisher was sold to an American company, so they decided to do a new release for Blood Mansion with a new cover, which was much better, and it
Very
was
cool.
released September of last year. This year, September of this year was Blood Castle.
Nice.
Next year, I hope to release in September Blood Village, which is already half finished already.
That's very cool. And then you can do a box set.
Well, I already got the inspiration while on vacation this summer for the fourth one.
Really? Any can you give any spoil? You don't have to, but if you any spoilers for the title for the fourth one, you know?
If it goes the way I want, it's going to be Blood Island.
Nice. Nice. And I honestly love that you got the idea for Blood Mansion. I love how you got the idea and even the title. And then once you get the title hooked, it kind of like lends to it, everything else you're writing down the lineage, right?
Yep.
These are always hard parts. These are the things that people really don't understand when if they haven't written something before. Sometimes titling is the hardest part, and find that
Yep.
perfect title can make the rest pop out. So when you're getting published, how much ownership of the cover do you have? Because you said you got a new cover with the American publisher.
Well, it kind of depends on your contract, but I have a
Right.
kind of a different flow with this new publisher.
Okay.
They even told me if I wanted to, if I decided that it was gonna, because they were working on different plans at the time, and they even said if you want, you can we will release you from your contract. At that point, I said if I do, I want my cover rights, and they did not object to that. But at this point in time, I wouldn't want to be released from the contract with them for that because so far they've treated me very well. The only thing is that they're not seem to be interested in some of my other books. So for that, I'm rather looking for an agent or eventually another publisher.
Best way to get an agent: keep publishing.
Well, agents I found so far have been useless. I think I've queried about 200 agents. I queried for Blood Mansion. I got about 70 or 80 rejections from them. I've queried for two other novels. I'm probably around 300 rejections total.
Yeah.
Only one of my novels that he didn't even get an agent asked for the full manuscript. And then after he read it, he said, it's a good book, but I'm just not catching it myself. Not catching the feeling to sell it. I said, okay, on to the next one. And that book is one that I will put out myself next year if I don't find a publisher because it's another kind of a horror thriller.
Nothing wrong with that. In fact, if you put it out yourself, you get all the money.
Yep.
It's
The only thing is,
weird.
if you get the right publisher and the right agent, you can sell a lot more copies. And 1% of $1 billion is better than 100% of $10.
I would say like your first contract. What was your royalty percent? Do you remember the very first one?
I think I'm trying to remember exactly. I think it was something like 30% on ebooks
It's not bad.
and 20% on
Like
paperbacks or
paper.
something like that. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly.
Minus any returns or anything like that for paperbacks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not bad. I think I got a Shasta, like one of
yeah.
the old like Fago sodas. I think that's I got that. Like not even per
Well,
book.
it doesn't
Like
matter what my royalties were. I never saw a penny of it
right,
anyways.
exactly. Like for those who don't know, that really it was the standard contract then. That really, I think back then especially, was a standard like 2030. It sounds about right. Now, when you are writing these and you have another inspiration, have you ever had difficulties writing a scene? You just couldn't get it for a while.
Often.
Often. How do you deal with that?
I put it aside for the time being and I try to write another scene. For example, I'm working on as a Blood Village now. I'm at a point I know kind of where I want to go, but I don't know how I write the next scene. But I know what I want two different scenes later on. So I'm writing those scenes separately and I can incorporate them when I get to that point. I do that with a lot of my books. I
Like,
usually have like 3 or 4 different Word docs going, one with notes, one with research, and one way called chapter insertions, where I've written a chapter and I'll insert it in later.
cool. But that's
But
very cool.
that's me. I know different writers work different ways. You have to go with what feels right for you.
Yeah, I think so. And we're using Word documents, so you're not using like I know people swear by Scrivener. I never could get into it. Some people just swear like by all these other. uh, I guess they're more gimmicky, geared towards writers versus just like Word. You just use
I'm
Word.
comfortable with Word doc. It almost feels like I'm on a typewriter, which I learned
Yeah,
to type when I was in my teens.
same.
And it's easy for me. And the only thing I use in the way of any type of AI or anything is that I use the basic Grammarly just to go through for catching spelling errors and stuff like that.
Yeah, I would use. I used to use Grammarly. I use Pro Writing Aid. I found it a little more friendly for fiction, but for AI, because my memory is shot now, I will write a whatever draft or script, and I used to put it on. Let's see this. It's old screenwriting gag where you use your note cards. You know, you use your note cards, and I'll have like character cards to remember who the characters are. And now I can do the same thing with AI by saying, okay, keep track of all my characters. So if I call Sue's daughter Linda in one chapter and I mistakenly call her Lisa in chapter 4, it'll flag it for me. And it's stuff like your editor would catch anyways. But that's what I've been kind of like experimenting with to see how far I can get it, just to kind of like help me catch my characters. Really, it's weird.
That happens to me a lot. I'll call a character something, and then later on I mention. So usually, what I do
Yeah,
is I do that. I'll go through the word find and see where all
fine.
the character name is. And if I see I used the wrong name multiple times, I'll just say wherever this word is, replace it with this.
Yeah.
Saves a lot of work.
Did you ever go like, okay, I called it, the original name was this one. I only said it 12 times, and the name I messed up was 25 times. I'll just replace it 12. Like,
Well, pretty close to that. I mean, I've done it a
yeah.
few times where I change the name halfway through the book, and I'm looking at it later and I say, "Oh, I like the change I made, so I'm going to go back and change
Yeah,
them all."
it's happy little accents. I like that. I like that idea. And I guess we both learned on typewriters. What was your transition from a typewriter to a keyboard, like a computer to keyboard? Was it easy or
I found it quite easy.
okay?
Because I transitioned from a manual typewriter to an electric
Electric
typewriter,
typewriter, yeah.
and
Then immediate.
then the first computer I had was back in the early '90s.
Oh wow.
And the funny thing is that someone gave me this computer, and I didn't know how to use it, so I had
Right.
it sitting there, and it kept popping up the things. Oh, I said, I'll just delete this. I'll delete this. Delete this. And next, I deleted the whole program without even realizing it. So now I had a dead computer.
Back in the day when they took cassette tapes. It's like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Well, when I was in college, we were using COBOL
Oh
punch
my god,
cards.
the punch cards. Yeah, this actually all makes sense. I learned computer programming. Basic was my first language in computer, like basic, and then Turbo, Pascal, whatever. But they're like, we still learn that. Well, you do? Like, yeah, in history. I'm like, oh, all the things we used to do, I'll now learn in history class. Like, that's not great. Oh well, it happens, man. It happens.
Yeah,
So
we're historic figures now.
I think so. Like I only joking. If any administration person hears this, I'm only kind of joking. I sometimes I'll teach on the side, and one of my students said, like, back in the 1900s. I'm like, what? Yeah, 1900s. This happened. Like, you mean 1990? Minus 500 points. Sorry, like I can't have this in my classroom no more. Yeah, we are that old. We're now like the last last millennium, really, but last century type thing, yeah. So when you're looking back, and you can tell young you, I ask my guests this always. If you can tell younger you, and I mean like teenage or below, so preteen around 12, 13, what piece of advice would you tell much younger you?
I would say don't give up your dreams about writing, because basically after my late teens, I joined the army. Then I went into real estate. I started a family. I stopped writing for a long time,
Okay.
and basically my dream had always been to become a published author. But of course, I had more dreams of becoming a Stephen King type of author, with because I remember the story of Stephen King's first ever book. He had thrown in the garbage before getting it published.
Yeah. Yeah. Stephen King was not like a success right out of the box.
No,
He
his first
struggled
book
too.
was Carrie, and he actually had thrown it in the garbage. And his wife took it out of the garbage and said, "What'd you throw this for? This is good." He said, "Well, I can't get these scenes right. You're talking about scenes." And one of the scenes he had a hard time with was the shower scene.
Ah,
And she brushed it off. She made him finish it. He sent it to his agent. His agent called him one day and said, "Are you sitting down?" He said, "Why do you have to sit down?" He said, "You better sit down." I said, "Okay, I'm sitting down. What is it?" "I just sold the rights for paperbacks, $500,000 for you." And
that's
that
amazing.
basically started his career. He was living in a trailer at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. He was
So
like,
it goes to show, if you keep following your dreams and don't
yeah.
give up on them, they can lead you a lot of places. And that's what I would tell my younger self.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm so glad your dream, it's coming true. You are a published author, right?
Yep.
Now we have to do is like step two, make you Stephen King rich.
I'm not even Stephen King rich. If I could sell 100,000 copies in 1 year, I'd be ecstatic.
It's doable. It is doable, and I think honestly, if you stick with the Blood series and start selling it as a bundle, I think you can hit the 100,000. I think you can. I do. The writing's good.
Well, someone once told me that it's your first two, three, four books you're not going to make much money on. It's usually when you get to your fifth, sixth one that you can start to make money.
And they'll start buying the rest of them.
Yep.
And that's kind of like the real cyclical thing. It's kind of weird but true. Like most people discover you in book 4, and they're like, "Oh my god, there's the fourth book. I better back up." Like what's the first one?
Yeah.
That's just life nowadays. Well, I want to say it's been fantastic and a long time coming to have this talk. So I do appreciate it all the time. And then Robert, you've got Blood Mansion already out, Blood Castle already out, coming soon. Blood Village, and maybe Blood Island. Who knows? Who knows? And
But
I
before
can't wait.
that one will be a Devil of a Time in November. That will be self-published.
Very cool. Where can we find you online on the
Uh,
interwebs?
I'm on Twitter at Storywriter,
Nice.
on Instagram at Storywriter. My website is www.storywriter.com. Sorry, .ca. I say .com.
Right.
Just about every one of my social media accounts is under Storywriter.
Very cool branding. I can't believe you got storywriter.ca. You must have like scalped that for like a long time ago. Like, boom, done.
I was lucky to get that back. I put that as my first website back about 25 years ago, 24 years ago, somewhere
Oh
around
wow.
there.
It's amazing. Good for you. Good for you. And good for all of us because we can read Blood Mansion and Blood Castle right now. Go get them. Don't listen to us no more. Go on Amazon. Go from starwriter.ca. Look at it and find them out. Thank you so much for everything, Robert,
Thank
and
you very
everyone else
much.
at home. Yep. I'm working my Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey was an American, like, folky guy. He used to do the news. Let me see. We bid you good day. Bye, everyone. One day
Bye.
I'll get it.